Former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev has made a new nuclear threat, stating that Russia cannot allow the success of Ukraine's counteroffensive. He said that, if necessary, his country will use weapons of mass destruction. Welcome to our channel. Today, we will be discussing the recent statements by former President Dmitry Medvedev on Ukraine. He threatened to use weapons of mass destruction if Ukraine goes forward with its counteroffensive. This is a serious threat, and it is important to be aware of the risks. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Now, let's get to the video. Former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev, who has sometimes raised the specter of a nuclear conflict over Ukraine, said on Sunday that Moscow would have to use a nuclear weapon if Kyiv's ongoing counteroffensive was a success. Medvedev, who is deputy chairman of Russia's Security Council, a body chaired by President Vladimir Putin, said in a message on his official social media accounts that Russia would be forced to fall back on its own nuclear doctrine in such a scenario. Imagine if the offensive, which is backed by NATO, was a success and they tore off a part of our land, then we would be forced to use a nuclear weapon according to the rules of a decree from the President of Russia. There would simply be no other option. So our enemies should pray for our warriors' success. They are making sure that a global nuclear fire is not ignited, he said. Medvedev, who has cast himself as one of Moscow's most hawkish voices, appeared to be referring to part of Russia's nuclear doctrine, which sets out that nuclear weapons can be used in response to aggression against Russia carried out using conventional weapons, which threatens the existence of the Russian state. Ukraine is trying to retake territory which Russia has unilaterally annexed and declared to be part of its own territory, a move condemned by Kyiv and much of the West. Putin said on Saturday that there were no serious battlefield changes to report in recent days and that Ukraine had lost large amounts of military equipment since June 4. Kyiv says its forces are making some progress in their drive to retake territory, albeit at a slower pace than desired. Kremlin critics have in the past accused Medvedev of making extreme statements in an effort to dissuade Western countries from continuing to supply Ukraine with arms. Presidents Barack Obama and Dmitry Medvedev signed the pact in a ceremony at the medieval castle in Prague, following a meeting where they discussed nuclear security, the Iranian atomic program, and the revolution in the strategic former Soviet Republic of Kyrgyzstan. The treaty was named New START, Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty, entered into force in 2011, and was extended in 2021 for an additional 5 years after Joe Biden's inauguration. The agreement would reduce by 30% the installed strategic arsenal of the two former Cold War enemies, but even so, the remaining warheads would be sufficient for mutual destruction. In 2023, President Vladimir Putin suspended Russia's participation in the last treaty on nuclear arms control with the United States. Russia also warned that they have made new strategic weapons available for combat. Last year, Russia stated that the danger of nuclear conflict was real and should not be underestimated but should be avoided at all costs. Dear folks, it's time to wrap up for now. If there are any updates on this or other relevant matters in the world, we'll be back to share with you. What do you think about Medvedev's statement? Do you believe it's merely a personal opinion, or does it represent the stance of the Russian government? We invite you to follow our channel to stay informed, and if you found the content relevant, don't forget to leave a like and comment. See you in the next video.